another location for Jack the Ripper. The Times of London printed the obituary of a goose. I wonder who it's named after. It can't be me, of course. Hello and welcome back to my channel, and you join me on a rather overcast morning here in Colchester. It's Colchester Castle just behind me, looking very mysterious in the misty morning. But it's not Colchester I'm going to explore today, because I'm off to London for a day trip. I had a really enjoyable time in London some weeks ago for my little 3-day adventure. And on one of those days I spent some time walking around Shoreditch and down to Spitalfields Market. So I'm going to go back there today and see what else I can discover. But I'm going to start in Aldgate. I'm going to try and find one of Jack the Ripper's murder locations down at Mitre Square. And then head up to Spitalfields Market, try and find Aziz's stall there, his Nigerian food stall, and sample some delicious Nigerian food for lunch. And along the way we'll see what else we can discover as well as I walk through the back streets of Aldgate up towards Spitalfields. But first I've got to get there. That means the morning coach to London, changing at Stratford onto the underground down to Aldgate East. I travelled with National Express on my last trip to London. I had a great time and a great experience. So I'm going to do it again today. So come with me as I travel to London with National Express again. Well, I've made it to Aldgate, and it's a little less dreary than it was this morning in Colchester. Looking up at the sky, it's a little brighter, so I'm hoping the sun might come out later on today. That would be nice, but I'm here in the Aldgate. It's called the Aldgate because there used to be an old gate here, an old postern into the medieval town of London. It got demolished back in 1760. But now that I'm here, I'm going to have a little walk around and head up towards Spitalfields Market. But before I do, I want to have a look over here, because there's an old water pump. It's quite interesting actually, because the first water pump in Aldgate was mentioned around the year 1200 in the reign of King John. You probably remember him in connection with the story of Robin Hood. I mentioned him a few times on my Nottingham video last year. Try and get across this road before I get run over. Dear oh dear. But here we go, here's the old water pump. It was originally down by Fenchurch Street station. There used to be a settlement there of streets called Water Pump Court, but Fenchurch Street station was built over the top of it back in 1841. There's still an old photograph which shows the pump here from 1874, and it's quite interesting. There's a little wolf just behind me. There's a little wolf tap, and the wolf's head is supposed to represent the last wolf killed in London, in the city of London. But the old Aldgate pump, yeah. Been a pump here since the 13th century. It's 1200s, the year of King John. It's repaired in 2019, renovated. It looks like they've put the lantern back on the top as well. But yeah, it's quite interesting to see it. Aldgate pump is Cockney rhyming slang for the hump. If you're depressed, you've got the Aldgate. You've got the Aldgate pump. Got the hump. I haven't, but it's Cockney rhyming slang. But just down here, this is Leadenhall. This thoroughfare, this street. one of the old streets of London. And just ahead of me is the Leadenhall Building, used in the television series The Apprentice. The candidates go for their interview at the end. But this is Hartshorn Alley. This is an old thoroughfare of London. It's probably called Angel Alley around 1754. Could have been named after the Hartshorn pub that may have stood on this site. But it's quite interesting walking through. The building dates from the 1980s. They actually preserved this old passageway, which is absolutely wonderful to walk through. And that brings me out onto to Fenchurch Street. There we go. And behind me is Fenchurch Street Station. And up ahead is the Aldgate pump. Absolutely brilliant. Fun little thoroughfare to walk through. Haven't walked through a thoroughfare like that, or a passageway like that. This I was in Bristol a few weeks ago. Well, a couple of months ago now. Walked down Albany Court, down the passageways there, towards all the legal chambers. That was really rather fun doing that. I do like walking through these old alleyways. They really are fun to walk through. I'm going to cross over Leadenhall, head into Mitre Street, and that leads into Mitre Square, which was the location of one of Jack the Ripper's murders. Just walking a bit further down here, Mitre Street, is Mitre Square. And this is where, just outside the back of the school, which is behind me, was where on the 30th of September 1888, around 2 in the morning, the body of Catherine Eddowes was discovered by the policeman Edward Watkins. Catherine was the 4th victim of the man we know today as Jack the Ripper. But I wonder, there's a plaque on the wall that might commemorate this. There was one here. What's this one? Site of the Priory of Holy Trinity, founded in 1108. Well, that's interesting. There's an old priory here. I do like looking at blue plaques. Oh, here we go. There's one here. Yes, Catherine Eddowes in the early hours of the morning. That's where her body was found. There's a plaque here. It also tells you about Holy Trinity as well. How fabulous. There we go. There's a little map and diagram. How brilliant. But there we go. Another location for Jack the Ripper. But just up here, this is St James Passage. This leads up into the back of Duke's Place and Aldgate Church, or St Botolphs without Aldgate and Holy Trinity Minories to give it its full title. The church was established back in 1115. It's quite a long time ago, probably connected to the priory in some way. But the current church is quite interesting. It dates from 1741 to 1744 and was designed by George Dance the Elder, and it's very typical of mid-18th century churches. It's quite a beautiful church, actually. I did go inside a few years ago, and yeah, very, very pleasant. This is Aldgate Square. But also, Aldgate Church was the burial place of 5,000 odd victims who died of plague back in the mid-14th century. I think it's under Aldgate Square. I don't know if the bodies are still down there or not, but yeah, it is one of the old plague pits of London. But there are a few other people who've been buried here as well, notable people. And looking at Thomas Lord Darcy and Sir Nicholas Carew, well, they plotted against Henry VIII. And like most people who came up against Henry VIII, they met a sticky end, and they both lost their heads on Tower Green. And they're buried here. Again, I don't know if their bodies are still here or they've been cleared throughout history, but they were buried here. But quite a few famous people also have connections to the church. Geoffrey Chaucer in 1370, well, he had a room above the actual Aldgate, the old entrance into London. In 1684, Daniel Defoe married here, and Sir Isaac Newton, well, he lived opposite the church as well. So another person with a connection here. It really is. It's quite interesting. It's how churchyards have adapted around, and the churchyards have gone, the burials have gone, and modern squares have grown up in their place. But the church remains, which is nice. It's nice that these churches are still used, and it's still a functioning church, which is great. So many churches in London have been repurposed, but not this one. But anyway, let's head up Houndsditch, which is just ahead of me, and let's see what else we can discover on the way to Spitalfields Market. It's called Houndsditch because there used to be a ditch outside the old walls of London, and it said that either feral dogs used to be present in the area throughout history, or that dead dogs were thrown into the ditch. The dog is also known as a hound, so therefore the Hound's Ditch. I don't know which is true, or whether they're both wrong, I don't know, but that's the theory that's in the history books, was in the tourist guides. But oh wow, what a great name for a pub! The Pub and Kitchen, and it's called the Alice. How cool is that? Just turn the camera around and you can see it's called the Alice. How brilliant! What a brilliant name for a pub. Let's just get a bit closer. Wonder who it's named after. It can't be me, of course. But there we go. A pub called the Alice. Alice? Outside the Alice, there we go. How brilliant is that? Anyway, let's walk down here and try and find some history. This is Stony Lane, so let's go find some history around here and see what we can discover. But the building on my right is, I think it's the St Botolphs building, this big blue one. Named after St Botolph, who died around the year 680. Very little is known about him. He was, he's become the patron saint of travellers and also of aspects of farming as well. So, I guess if you're travelling across a farm, St Botolphs is the person to pray to, that you don't stand in something you shouldn't. But there we go, St Botolph. Quite a few churches are named after St Botolph. They've got one in Colchester as well. They don't seem to be found in London and the east of England. I don't think there are any St Botolph's churches outside the east of England. Did I read that correctly somewhere? But if you know different, if you know there's a St Botolph's in Lancashire or Cornwall or Cumbria, then let me know in the comments section below. Always interested in finding another church dedicated to St Botolph. Well, let's cross this road and see what else we can discover here in Aldgate. Just been having a little walk around here. There's quite a mismatch of architecture, from the old to the new. A lot of the old buildings have all been repurposed and converted into trendy apartments. There's some interesting street names as well. One on my right is Frying Pan Alley, which is quite interesting, and this is Sandy's Row. The streets are getting a little narrow up here. It's quite a really rather interesting. Also little boutique shops and restaurants, and a pub called the King's Arms just on my left. And then Wingate Street, Building there dates from 1895. Let's wander down here. Where are we going now? Artillery Passage. Oh, this is more like it. This is lovely. Old back street thoroughfare. Another pub on the right-hand side. Little cafes. Little more boutique shops. Really rather pleasant. Or a little hidden gem down here in the back streets. So what you find when you get off the beaten track and get away from the generally accepted tourist areas in any town or city, you find little backstreet gems. Absolutely wonderful. Don't know where it comes out. I'm probably lost again. I always seem to do that in my videos. I always seem to get lost. Well, there's a little cafe up the top called the Crispin. I bet this is Crispin Street. Artillery Lane, yeah, must be Crispin Street up on the left. That's where I want to be. I think that goes up towards Spitalfields. But that's rather fun walking through there. Really rather fun. A bit of blue sky as well in the distance. How fabulous. But, yeah, it's nice. Quite warm as well. It's a bit fresh this morning. Up in Colchester, but it's rather nice. Rather nice down here for an October day. Forecast is about 19 degrees, which is about 5 degrees warmer than it should be at this time of year. I'm not complaining. I like warm. I don't do the cold. I don't do cold. Anything below about 15 degrees and is too cold for me. But yeah, this is Spitalfields Market up ahead. Oh wow! Oh, that's where it is. This is O'Donovan's. This is one of the old shops of London. O'Donovan started, Donovan brothers. Yeah, it was the O'Donovans. They started this business in 1830. They came across from Dublin during the potato famine. You can actually see it there. This is one of the old shop fronts of London that's been preserved. Time has just stood still on this old shop front. How absolutely fantastic. They used to have the building next door. It's now a block of flats or it's been rebuilt, but there used to be a big warehouse next door which they used to use as well. It's quite a big business. It's actually still going strong in London. They made paper products and they sold it to the markets. Obviously people put their groceries and things in the market in paper bags. But yeah, they're still going strong and still supplying Spitalfields Market with bags and paper products. O'Donovan's. Absolutely brilliant, yeah, founded in 1830s. Brilliant. There are quite a few little shops in London where time has just stood still, and that's one of them. Oh, brilliant. Anyway, we're at Spitalfields Market, so now let's find some lunch. It's lunchtime. Gonna find some lunch and try and find Aziz's stall. Has some delicious Nigerian food.
Beef too.
Beef, please. Yes, thank you. Some plantain. Looking forward to trying plantain. Actually, I haven't.
Oh well, it's like sweet, like
yes, like
before you.
That's okay. I'll try some in a minute. No, I'll try some in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Just collected my food from Aziz's stall. The smell is wonderful. Look at this. Oh, taste the flavours. It's so good, absolutely delicious. Really must come here again. So glad I come here today actually. Weather's held off, it's quite nice, quite warm. It's not very windy, which is nice. Don't do the wind. I just have it with my hair. The aroma that's coming off from this food is Oh, absolutely delicious. Ooh. That really is nice. That really is nice. Comes with some plantain as well, which is like a giant banana. Never had plantain before, so looking forward to trying a little bit of deep fried plantain. Oh, oh, that is nice. Oh, deep fried plantain. I can do that at home, I think. They sell plantains on the markets near where I live. I've seen them on the markets. Something I can do at home. Wouldn't better replicate the rest of the meal, but oh, this is lovely. Oh, that really is delicious. Absolutely delicious. As he's cooking is just the best. I must come here and try some of the other dishes that he prepares, because the flavours really are just quite something. I normally have Indian or Thai, Indonesian food when I go out. Very rarely have Nigerian. Perhaps I should a little more, because this is absolutely delicious. So I'm going to finish my lunch, then I'm going to explore a little further around Spitalfields Market, see what else we can discover, have a cup of tea. I haven't had a cup of tea this morning, so I need to rectify that and have a cup of tea. Find a nice slice of cake as well. Yeah, definitely have a slice of cake, I think, as well, with a cup of tea. So I'm going to finish my rather delicious stew and some plantain, then explore the market. This is delicious. Got a cup of tea. It's my first of the day. Oh, and it tastes so good as well. Come at that nice little cafe I visited last time I was here. Mr. Coffee and Mrs. Cake. And I've got a slice of carrot cake as well. I do like carrot cake. It's one of my favourites. Well, anything cake is my favourite, really. I'm quite partial to a carrot cake. It's quite different to other cakes. I find the sponge a lot moister. I do like a moist sponge, a moist sponge, or a wet bottom as they call it in the I think in cake world, wet bottom. But yes, sponge is different texture compared to something like a Victoria sponge. I do like a Victoria sponge as well, but the texture of the carrot cake or beetroot cake or anything like that, I've had courgette cake before now, the moisture and the flavour in the carrot or the courgette really comes out in the sponge, and the texture's really rather nice. It really is nice. I don't know if it's homemade or not, but probably isn't, but still a nice cake. So the plan for this afternoon, well, I'm going to head down towards Leadenhall Market and see what I can discover down there. Try and find a few more back alleys and some history as well. And then I'll have to think about heading back to Stratford and my coach back home. That's at 5:30, so I've got a couple of hours. So I'm going to sit here for a few minutes and enjoy my cake and my cup of tea. Oh, that really is lovely and refreshing. Can't beat a cup of tea. quite interesting looking at that bit of artwork there. I think it's a bit of artwork. 7 wire statues in a boat, in a wooden boat. This was installed back in 2011. I think the artist was Calliope Lemos. It's quite interesting, interesting structure. The actual wooden boat is a genuine migrant boat. People used to escape from Turkey, searching for a better life, and they ended up in Greece. That's an actual boat that they used. But this is Gun Street, and down the bottom here is it's an old facade from a building. Probably got bombed during the war. But there's no plaque which actually says anything about it, which is a shame. The bottom of Gun Street. Don't know why it's there. Don't know why they kept that piece of building and not incorporate it into the building, the new modern building that was behind it. I wonder why. If you happen to know about the history of that building on Gun Street, then let me know and leave a comment. Very interested in finding out. This is Artillery Lane, I think. No, this is Artillery Lane, this one here. That goes back to Spitalfields. This is Artillery Lane. This is quite interesting. This is where I was earlier. Sandy's Road. Fort Street on the right. Gun, Fort, Artillery. I wonder what the significance of that is. That goes back to Spitalfields. I don't want to go back to Spitalfields. I want to go down this way. I'm getting lost again. All I do is get lost in London. That can't be right, can it? I wonder what the significance, as I say, of those names are. Was there a munitions work here at one point, or a foundry making cannons? I wonder. Be interested in finding out. I suppose I'll do a little research. I hadn't planned on walking down here. Just looking for a shortcut down towards Liverpool Street and to head down to Leadenhall Market. We'll see what we can discover en route. But I do like walking through these back streets. If I hadn't have walked down here, I'd never have seen that facade. It's been preserved for some strange reason. I wonder what that reason is. Just crossed over the top of Houndsditch, where I was this morning. I was at the bottom end this morning. This is the top end of Houndsditch, and 110 Bishopsgate. And just on the left is a rather impressive office block with an aquarium. I don't know if the camera picked that up at all, but it's actually the largest privately owned aquarium in the country. And it's in an office block at the top of Houndsditch on Bishopsgate. Absolutely brilliant. Just been inside and actually had a look at it. I had to ask, I wasn't sure if it was a giant television screen or not, but it is actually an aquarium. How cool is that? I do love aquariums. To see one that's that size really is very impressive indeed. Just cross over. This is Chamomile.
Do you want to go in the back?
This is a one-way system. Comes up from Aldgate. Chamomile comes up this way.
You'd be quite surprised at
towards Bishopsgate, and Houndsditch is the one that goes down the other way. The one-way system. But just along here on the left is St Helen's Church. Let's see if we can find that. Just down here is St Helen's Church. We're walking under this rather funky awning here. That's quite interesting actually, quite funky. But St Helen's Church is the largest of the city churches. Dates are around 1210. It's also where William Shakespeare used to worship as well. He used to live around here in the 1590s. Amazingly, this church actually survived the Great Fire of London and the Blitz. There's a couple of interesting burials in there as well. Sir Robert Hooke, he's buried in there. He was an architect. He worked a lot with Sir Christopher Wren on numerous projects, including the Greenwich Royal Observatory and the monument to the Great Fire of London. Got a bit distracted there, sorry. And Sir Thomas Gresham is a merchant and financier, part of the Gresham family. He's also buried in there as well. But it's quite nice around here. I haven't been down here. Seems to be the architecture on the chapel behind me. Let's just have a look at that. Interesting architecture. There's a plaque on the wall here as well. Robert Hooke, 1635, 1703, eminent scientist, first laid to rest here. There we go. Robert Hooke. There we go. How interesting. It's quite interesting having a walk around St Helen's Church there, looking at some of the architecture, some of the windows that have been filled in. See how churches have changed over time and adapted to more modern surroundings. I wonder if the church was actually damaged during the war or not. I haven't been able to find that out, but it certainly survived. But the interesting building is up ahead, and it's number 30 St Mary's Axe. We know it better as the Gherkin. There was a medieval parish church here of St Mary's. It got demolished back in 1561. Let's jump across this road. 1561. The name Axe comes from I think it's the Worshipful Company of Skinners. There was an axe on the east end of the church, apparently. So it became St Mary's Axe. The name was sort of stuck, but everyone knows this building now as the Gherkin. Used to be the Baltic Exchange here, the Royal Exchange. That was until the 10th of April 1992, when the IRA bombed the building. One of the worst acts of terrorism in London, and sadly 3 people died. There's a little plaque in memory of Paul Butt, Danielle Carter and Tom Casey, who died that day. And that building came down. The new 30 St Mary's Axe was built in its place. It's become quite an iconic building now for London. Really is quite interesting. So have a little walk through the underneath, because it is quite breathtaking to look up at it. Actually, I've seen it from a distance. You can see the iconic shape of the Gherkin. You can see how it got its name, but to stand underneath it and look up is quite interesting. There we go, walking underneath the walkway around the Gherkin, or 30 St Mary Axe, to give this building its proper title. But so many bombs went off in London in the 70s, 80s and 90s, 1990s, due to the IRA, Irish Republican Army. It's crazy times, sad times, politically and socially. But I guess that's all part of London's history. Fortunately, the acts of terrorism and violence have now stopped, and let's hope they never come back, not in any shape or form. anywhere in the country or abroad or anything. It's just, it really is just terrible. But there we go. Board Exchange is now located at Leadenhall, number 38, I think it is. So, it's actually been moved, but it's quite an impressive building they put in this place. So there we go, the Gherkin, 30 St Mary Axe, and the location of one of the worst acts of terrorism in London. Found my way back onto Leadenhall again. The Aldgate pump that I looked at earlier was at the bottom of Leadenhall, and you can see behind me the Gherkin. There we go, the other way. Or 30 St Mary Axe, just give it its proper title again. But the building on my right, nah, it's not an oil refinery. Looks like an oil refinery, I suppose. Quite an iconic building. There was a bit of controversy at the time when it was built back in the 1980s. Very radical design. Got all its bones and skeleton on the outside of the building. I never liked it. Still don't like it. It's actually Lloyds Bank. I don't bank with Lloyds. Don't like that building. There we go. Guess it's here to stay. One of the marvels of modern architecture. Hideous. Really is hideous. This is in my opinion anyway. There are much nicer buildings to look at, like 30 St Mary Axe. That's a nice building. Canary Wharf, that's a nice building. Lots of nice architecture around here. And even 20 Fenchurch Street, the walkie-talkie, where I was the other week, or a few weeks ago. The Sky Garden, lovely building. But I guess the Lloyds building does grow on you, I suppose. I don't like it, but it does grow on you. I'm not a great fan of this type of architecture. But there we go. And just up ahead of me is Leadenhall Market. There we go, looks really impressive. Actual building, actual market we see today was designed by Sir Horace Jones back in 1884. He also designed Tower Bridge. Absolutely amazing inside, it really is, my goodness me. Wow, look at the architecture in here. Sidetrack looking at the architecture, it really is just absolutely amazing. There's been a market here since the 14th century. Meat and fish were sold here for around 1321, and you've got cheesemongers, they were recorded as being here from about 1397. It's famous recently for its being a poultry market. You can still see the hooks and things where the birds would have been hung up ready to be sold. But it's also been used as a film location. So many films have been made here. Harry Potter's probably the most famous one, I think. Not that I've seen any Harry Potter films. I really should watch them, I suppose. He's still as popular today as he was when the first film came out. But it's built on the site, the actual market is built in the site of an old Roman forum. And somewhere underneath one of the shops is the old walls of the forum. But it's, just looking at it, it really is just quite impressive to look at today. There must have been quite a hive of activity here when markets were on. In 1408, the Mayor of London, Dick Whittington, was granted the leasehold to the manor. And he gifted it to the City of London Corporation, I think about 1411. And the market's been here ever since. Talking of films, the pub at the end actually featured in a film called Brannigan back in 1975. That was a John Wayne film. He played the part of a New York cop coming to London to arrest somebody. And they actually filmed some scenes in here as well. in the pub at the end. And there's a famous story which is linked to Leadenhall Market, and it concerns a gander, goose if you like, old Tom. About 34,000 geese came over from Ostend in Belgium to be sold here in the market, and they were all slaughtered for food. But one plucky gander, he managed to escape. They called him Old Tom, and he lived out his life here in the market. Never got killed and put on the table. He survived, a plucky little thing. There's a plaque. Is that the plaque to? Yeah, there's a plaque to him just up here. Yeah, there we go. And there's the plaque to which tells you all about Old Tom here in the Leadenhall Market. He died aged 37. He had a good life for a goose, or should I say a gander. He had a good life. He died on the 19th of March, 1835. He's actually buried here somewhere underneath the floor, or the roadway, the old cobbled roadway, here at Leadenhall Market. But his story doesn't end there, because he had his obituary printed in the Times newspaper. Oh, how mad! Yes, he had his obituary printed in the Times newspaper. The Times of London printed the obituary of a goose. How mad is that? Totally bizarre. There we go, this is Leadenhall Market. Gonna take a little walk around, I think. Oh dear, it's nice to take the weight off your feet and sit down. I haven't stopped walking since I got off the coach this morning. Well, apart from having lunch, of course. But I've had quite an interesting day walking around. Lots of interesting architecture to look at, especially that old facade down on Gun Street. And that rather interesting art installation outside Spitalfields Market. But I got a cup of tea. Oh, second one today. This delightful little cafe, Cafe Rocca, down here on Leadenhall Market. And in the display case inside was a egg custard tart. Can't resist an egg custard tart. Ooh. They are just the best. I don't know what I prefer more, egg custard tarts or carrot cake. They're both very different. I do love an egg custard tart. I have to visit Portugal, I think, where they make them. Every cafe apparently in Portugal seems to sell egg custard tarts. Portuguese seem to live on them. Why not? They're delicious. Oh. That really is tasty. But there we go. This is where I end this video. I've got to go back now to Stratford and catch my National Express coach back home. And back to work tomorrow. Driving a National Express coach. So a bit of a busman's holiday there, or say a coachwoman's holiday I should say. Travelling on a coach on my day off. But there we go, I've had a fantastic day here in London, and getting here on the coach was just so simple, and I had a nice journey down here on time as well. Great day walking around, a lovely lunch, it's meeting Aziz again. What a lovely man, what a lovely man, and such a good cook as well. That beef stew, ooh, I can still taste it, that jollof of rice, absolutely wonderful. And I tried plantain today as well, so that's another bonus to look forward to on another trip out anyway. Look to find some plantain. It's probably a recipe I can do at home. I'm sure I can slice up a banana and fry it. Even with my lax
limited culinary skills, I'm sure I can slice a banana and fry it. So anyway, it's my cup of tea. This is where I end this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. It's the bottom right hand corner of your screen, and follow my journey. There's plenty more adventures to come, and I'm looking forward to getting out and about later on this year or next year. If you're watching it this year, it won't be on my channel until next year, so hopefully this year, as you're watching this in January, I'll be planning some more adventures, more trips out, hopefully abroad as well. It'd be nice to get abroad again. I haven't been abroad since last year, and I went to Trieste. Had a fantastic time in Italy. And Luxembourg as well. Went to Luxembourg last year. And all those videos are on my channel for you to enjoy. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon for another adventure.